On this one we're asked to simplify. This is a pretty complicated one. If I look here, I've got two rational expressions that I'm subtracting one from the other. I look here and I notice that they do not have the same denominator, unfortunately, so now I'm trying to find the least common denominator. Well, it's rather difficult here, only because I don't know if the least common denominator is going to be these two multiplied together, what I'm going to do with it. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is to try to factor both of these. So I've got a quadratic expression on the denominator on this one and a quadratic expression that's the denominator on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and factor both of those. Remember, factoring is two numbers that multiply together to give me 6, but add together to give me -5. And then this one would be two numbers multiplied together to give me -12, but add together to give me 1. So I'm going to go ahead and factor those right now. You'll notice here I've got my factors are x minus 3 times x minus 2. Those were my factors from this quadratic expression here. X minus 3 times x plus 4 are my factors from this one right here. Now that I've got these factored, it's a little bit clearer what my lowest common denominator is. I notice that both of these two have an x minus 3. So I know that that's going to be in my denominator. Also, so is x minus 2 and an x plus 4. So my lowest common denominator in this case is going to be x minus 3 times x minus 2 times x plus 4. And this sounds fairly complicated, and it is. So you want to work through these slowly just to make sure you don't make any errors. But what I basically do is I look at this one here. I've got an x minus 3 and an x minus 2. So those are my first two. I'm just missing this x plus 4. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to multiply top and bottom by that x plus 4. So I do that now, and here's what I did. I've got the 7x, I'm just multiplying that top by x plus 4, and I'm going to multiply that bottom by x plus 4 as well. Now on this side over here, I've got an x minus 3 and an x plus 4. The one that I'm missing is x minus 2. So now what I'm going to do is multiply top and bottom by x minus 2. Okay, now I've got a subtraction sign here, so I'm going to go ahead and keep that one there just to make sure that I don't get confused later on. Okay, so I've got that subtraction sign here, and you'll notice that this is x minus 2 that I'm multiplying on top and bottom here, because that's the one that was missing. Okay, so I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to simplify this a little bit further. I've got 7x times this quantity here. So I've got 7x times x gives me 7x squared. 7x times 4 gives me 28x. Minus, and I keep that minus sign here, 3 times x is 3x. 3 times -2 is -6. Well, now I have a common denominator here. Notice my denominator here is exactly the same. These two here are switched around, but that's okay with the commutative property of multiplication. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. So, just to make things just a little bit easier, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put all of these over one common denominator. So I do that now. Here's my common denominator, x minus 3 times x minus 2 times x plus 4. Okay, now you'll notice here I rewrote this 7x squared plus 28x. I've got that right here. I didn't touch that at all. Didn't change it. This one here, you notice I'm using parentheses. I've got a negative sign here, so that means I put it in parentheses because this negative applies to the 3x and to the -6 both. So I put it in parentheses just to aid me in making sure that I get the right answer here. Okay, so now I'm going to distribute this negative. So I've got negative times 3x gives me a -3x. Negative times -6 gives me a +6. So there's where my numbers come here, and I can lose my parentheses now. So now I look over here and I see if there's any like terms that I can combine. This one has an x squared and nothing else here has an x squared, so I can't combine that. But I do notice the 28x and the -3x I can combine. So I go ahead and usually I just do like a little doodle there to remind myself that I can combine those two. And 28x minus 3x gives me 25x. So my answer on this one is 7x squared plus 25x plus 6 all over my lowest common denominator, x minus 3 times x minus 2 times x plus 4. And you can just leave it in that format. It's going to be the easiest.